The journey to becoming a writer is a journey, which is why I called it a journey. Becoming a great writer doesn't happen overnight. It is a multi-step, multi-stage, multi-phase journey that often takes many, many years. Today, we're going to talk about the different stages that most writers go through, what happens in each stage, how you can tell what stage you're in, and how you can move to the next one. Let's begin with stage number 1, the dreamer. The number of people who have thought about writing a novel but never actually written anything is probably several orders of magnitude higher than the people who have ever actually written anything. And that's totally fine. I have all kinds of things that I've dreamed about doing that I will probably never do, like running a marathon, talking to a woman without sweating profusely, or filing taxes. Those are things that I think about doing all the time, but if I'm honest with myself, I'll probably never do any of them. Being in the dreamer stage is fun, it's enjoyable, but until you actually sit down to write, you're going to be stuck in that stage. You have to take the first step. Once you do start writing, you will move into the next stage, which is stage number 2, the starter. This is probably an even more exciting stage than the dreamer. You sit down and start typing. You've got this brilliant idea in your head for a novel. You're fueled by blissful ignorance, the novelty of novel writing, and the rush of possibilities. You set out and begin many, many ideas with no idea how to actually finish them. If you've been a writer for a while, you've probably got drawers and drawers full of these sorts of projects. The first 5, 10, 20, 50 pages of a novel that you'll probably never finish. I spent a lot of time as a starter. I, for years, would come up with an idea that I thought was amazing. I would begin working on it in earnest, and then a lot of problems would set in and I would abandon it. For all their naive enthusiasm, the starter doesn't realize what actually goes into making a novel work. And that's fine. You've just started here. No one expects you to know anything. They usually quickly discover that an idea alone will not propel a novel across the finish line, that the initial momentum burns out, that you will very quickly lose focus and interest, and it's very easy to stop once you do. The writing produced by a starter is usually not great. Energy and desire cannot overcome inexperience. Unless you're some kind of prodigy, which 99.9% of people are not, you have a lot to learn as a writer, which brings us to stage number 3, the learner. At some point, every writer learns that there is a lot to learn and that they really need to start learning. This is not a stage that starts and finishes, at least not if you continue to progress. This is when you begin learning. This is when you realize that there's so much that goes into this craft. You enter this stage when you come to that realization. Writers can learn in all sorts of different ways. You will learn simply by practicing writing. You will learn by reading other people's writing, the novels and published novels and stuff that you go out and read. You'll learn by watching videos and doing courses and reading craft books and going to workshops and participating in writing groups and dealing with critique partners. There's all kinds of different avenues for a writer to learn the craft. All of this stuff will help with your writing. At the learner stage, you really start to internalize that writing is a skill, something that you need to practice to get better at. I encounter this from time to time, but there's a lot of people out there who have this weird idea that you can't get better at writing, that it's just this kind of innate built-in talent that you either have from day one or don't have. And I don't think that's true, and I think a lot of successful and very skilled writers would disagree with that point. For a writer to continue to progress and improve, they need to continue to learn, to hone the craft both through consuming material and through practice. Good writers aren't necessarily born, they are created, and they are created through hours and hours of practice. And eventually you'll realize that this practice isn't always fun. Stage number 4, the habiter, which I recognize is not actually a word, but all of the rest of these stages end in and I couldn't think of a better word, so here we are. If you want to make serious progress as a writer, you're going to have to write even when you don't necessarily feel like it. The muse doesn't always appear on a regular schedule, and to be truly productive as a writer, you need to counteract that. This is where habits and having a writing routine come into play. The habiter is a more serious writer. For them, writing has transcended being a fun, exciting activity that you only do when you're motivated, and now it's something that you take seriously. They want to get projects done, regardless of whether they're in the mood or not. Now, how you feel as you're writing will often affect the quality of the writing. But when you get to this stage along the writing journey, you're starting to move beyond that. You start to figure out how to get into the zone, how to manage your emotions so they don't impact your writing, how to delay gratification and ignore distractions. You start seeing your motivation as something that you can manage and cultivate, not just something that appears and disappears at random times. You're still learning, you're still trying new things, but you're doing this as part of a more rigorous writing practice. Now, something tricky starts to happen at this stage. A lot of this growth and development can go to your head. Which brings us to stage number 5, the defender. At some point during this process, you are going to develop an ego about your writing, and this will drive you to defend your writing. This happens for different people at different times. A lot of people have an ego on day one once they start writing, but it usually only comes out once you get far enough along that you have other people reading your work. You put in so much effort, you attach yourself to this idea of being this fantastic writer. You can't stomach the idea that you aren't as great as your mind says you are. And then once you start having other people read your writing, either because you've managed to get something published or you've shared it in some way or you're participating in a writing group, that image that you have, this idea that you have of being a fantastic writer starts to crumble when you start receiving criticism. This is extremely dangerous. The defensive posture will make you ignore feedback. It will blind you to problems in your writing, and it will stunt your growth as a writer. This often comes out in writing group drama. It comes out in refusing to accept critique. It comes out in attacking other writers. Part of getting better means accepting that you aren't as good as you want to be. Becoming more secure about your writing is about letting go of the attachments you have to its quality. Progress only comes when you recognize your limitations and where you actually need to improve. And you can't recognize those things if you have an ego that's blockading all of that information. Once you do that, once you start to internalize this, there's a major shift that starts to happen. You start to realize that writing is fundamentally for other people, and that the biggest challenge, the highest level of skill that you can attain as a writer, is in making your writing affect other people the way that it affects you. Which brings us to stage number 6, the warrior. I wanted the stage to have a cool sounding name, so I called it the warrior. I also, again, the thing, I couldn't think of a good word for. If you want to get good at sex, a large part of your focus needs to be on the other person. At least that's what I'm told. It's the same thing with writing. When writers really excel, they start focusing on the reader's experience rather than their own experience. They start to focus on clarity, on getting their story across to the reader. They stop being concerned about ego and how good they are and how good the writing is, and they start being more concerned about how the reader is experiencing the writing. Yes, you have a vision. Yes, you have a message that you want to get across, but your focus shifts to doing everything you can to make the reader's experience as good as it possibly can be. If you have ambitions about publishing, then this is a stage you need to reach. The best authors are the best communicators. They have the clearest window into the worlds and characters that they create. This is where you need to go if you want other people to enjoy your writing, but it's not, in my view at least, the pinnacle of writing progress. That is attained at the last stage, which is stage number 7, the writer. You thought you were a writer before you reached stage number 7. Ooh. If there was a nuclear apocalypse tomorrow and you happened to survive it, would you still be writing as you sat among the cockroaches that were taking over the world? If you can truly answer yes to that question, then I think you've reached this stage. I've seen some serious writers compared to like a rodent where their teeth keep growing and so they need to constantly gnaw on stuff or their teeth will like grow into their head. Writers are the same way, though for them it's writing instead of chewing through electrical wires, but same idea. When you reach this stage, writing moves beyond a desire. It moves beyond even the desire to be published or the desire to write a great story. It goes beyond a want. It becomes a part of you. It's just something that you will do and probably not stop doing. I don't know that I personally have reached this stage, but I frequently find myself questioning why I continue to write. I do enjoy it. I have some desire to do it. I do get some fulfillment out of it. But when you look at the amount of time that I've spent investing in my writing and what I've gotten out of it, either from a satisfaction standpoint, definitely from a financial standpoint, I don't know that the trade off makes a whole lot of sense. There have been times in my life, especially in the earlier stages, where I did have that desire to write, like that urge to write. I don't find I have those feelings as much anymore, but these days I'm probably writing more and I have developed a way more effective practice than I did back in the earlier days when I was very motivated and excited and had a lot of desire to write. Now, this could simply just be a very well ingrained habit that I've developed, that I'm just used to doing, and it doesn't take a lot of effort and I keep doing it, but I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I think when you've been practicing writing for long enough, you reach a point where it just becomes something that you do. It becomes part of your identity. It almost gets hard to answer the question, why do I write? But at the same time, the idea of stopping writing just feels kind of weird. It's really hard to describe. If you felt something similar, I'd love to hear about it in the comments down below. I'm going to bring this video to an end because it's already gotten quite long. So thanks for watching. Please check out all my other writing advice related videos, and I will see you next time.